What makes a code interpreter chat so special and also very useful is this little upload button right here. We can upload pretty much any sort of file, assuming it's under, I believe 500 megabytes is the current threshold. We can upload a dataset, a CSV file, an Excel spreadsheet, a JSON file, SQL stuff, images, and then we can have the code interpreter do some work, do some data analysis, data visualization. And that's exactly what we'll start with in this video. So the first thing we need to do is find a data set that we can use. Now, in the real world, you might have some company data, some personal sales data, whatever it is, your fitness data, I don't know, something from a Fitbit, whatever the data set is, you can upload it. I have to contend with Creative Commons licensed data sets that are available for me to use in this course. Fortunately, the website Kaggle, Kaggle, has tons and tons of data sets. That's really what the website exists to do, is provide data sets, also host competitions, discussions, and have people share their analysis of different data sets. So if you go to Kaggle, you'll need to create an account. It's free. We can go to data sets, and then I'm going to filter by Creative Commons licensed data sets so I can use them in this course. And there's tons of different data sets, and you can sort them. You can search if you want the most updated, the most popular, the newest. I'm going to go with a simple and easy to understand data set to begin with. Some of them are quite complicated and they exist across multiple files. I'm going to go with this one, which is IMDb Top 1000 Movies. So this data set includes information just about the top 1000 movies on the Internet Movie Database, IMDb. And if we scroll down, we get a preview of what the data looks like. So the different columns. So there's an ID, the title of the movie, like The Shawshank Redemption, the director, the release year, the runtime in minutes, the genre, the rating. So this is the IMDb rating. Then we have the Metascore, which is an aggregate of critic ratings. So there's sometimes a difference where something might be critically loved and the audience score might be lower or vice versa. And that's something we could explore using ChatGPT. And then we have the total gross of the movie. Now, we don't have the budget, which there could be some interesting things to do with budget, but we have the gross, which is in millions, I believe. Although there's a lot of zeros because lots of these movies don't have budget or don't have gross information. So that's also something we'll have to contend with. And we can ask ChatGPT to help us ignore the rows that have zero, for example. Anyway, I'm going to do this in such a way that you don't really have to understand anything about working with Python, working with data, pandas, matplotlib, any of that stuff, and we'll still be able to perform some basic data analysis and visualization. The first step is to download this data set, and it's a small one, 66 kilobytes. Great. We're within the 500 megabyte threshold by quite a ways. So I'm going to download that and unzip it, and then I'm going to go back to ChatGPT in a code interpreter session, where I have this upload file button, and I'm going to navigate to the folder I just unzipped. And there's two versions in here. There's a clean and raw file. I'm going to go with the clean file. That just means the data likely has been cleaned up and has less errors. And then I'll upload this. And when it finishes, all right, it's almost done. I can either just hit enter right away, or I can provide some instructions. If I just hit enter, ChatGPT will tell me something like, okay, you uploaded a file, here's the name. What do you want me to do with it? Do you want to preview the data? Do you have a specific task? I'll just start with, tell me a bit about the data. And it should tell me a little bit about the different columns. It's a CSV file, which is a comma-separated value file. And it says that here are the columns. We've got an unnamed column, which is some sort of ID or index column. So it's telling me this might cause some confusion. Then we have the title, director, release year, runtime, genre, rating, Metascore, and gross in millions. So it already figured out a little bit about the structure of the data. I could do simple questions like, how many movies are in the data set? And by the way, as always, I can click under Show Work to see the work that it did. It's using a library called Pandas, very popular for data analysis, manipulation within Python. It loads the CSV file, and then it calls a method called head, which just returns the first couple rows of the data set. And we can see the output here. Again, you don't really have to know Python in order to use it. Here it's telling me there's 994 unique movies in the data set. Okay, now let's try doing something like, let's perform some basic data analysis. And let's play dumb and say, I don't have any ideas. Can you suggest some ideas? And it will give me a list of possible things that we could try with the data. So basic statistics around runtime, rating, metascore, gross, understand the distribution of genres, identify directors with the most movies in the data set, analyze the number of movies released each year, find correlations between a movie's rating and its gross earnings, find the top 10 highest rated movies, top grossing movies, all of that. So why don't we try something simple like identify the directors with the most movies in the data set. Simple enough. Okay, so it's written some code. Pretty simple pandas code if you're at all familiar with pandas. Basically, you're just going to run a method called value counts on the director column, and this will generate a series showing the director name followed by how many movies they were in. And oh, there's an error. What happened? This happens occasionally here. One thing that is a little bit annoying with the code interpreter is that if you step away from the computer for too long, or you open a new window of ChatGPT and you try and come back to this session, you have to reload everything from scratch. You have to re-upload the file in most cases. So it's something that can take a long time. Anyway, here we go. It worked this time. So here's the code that it runs. Here's the underlying result it gets from Python. So if you were just to run this code yourself, which you totally could if you know Python, you understand pandas, you know how to import pandas, how to find a CSV file, all of that stuff, you could run this, and this is the result you get. Then ChatGPT steps in and it pretties it up a little bit, right? It turns it into a more English format where it's printing it out, right? It's adding movies at the end, but the numbers are the same. We have Hitchcock 32. Alfred Hitchcock down here, 32 movies. Anyway, it's giving me a list of, how many directors have the most, or which directors have the most movies on this list of the top 1,000 movies on IMDb. Now let's try something slightly more complicated. How about let's do some descriptive statistics. So I'm just going to copy its ideas. Let's do some basic statistics, like mean, median, and range of the numerical columns, like runtime. Okay, let's do that. So at this point, I'm just doing basic analysis. I mean, very basic analysis, mean, median, all that stuff. In the next video, we'll talk about visualizations, because that's also a really easy thing to do with this code interpreter. Okay, so it's giving me, for runtime, the mean is about 2 hours. The median is 120 minutes, so exactly 2 hours. And the range goes from 45 minutes to, 321 minutes. And I could even just ask a simple question like, which movie has a runtime of 321 minutes? I'm curious. And you can see, of course, underlying code. It's smart. It's even naming this variable longest movie. And it's a movie called Gangs of Wasseypur, a Bollywood movie or some sort of Indian movie. That is a long movie. Wow. I'll look it up later. Maybe it's a multi-part movie or something. Then we have Metascore. So this is kind of interesting. The average user rating, the mean, is 7.97, almost 8. The average critical rating from critics is significantly lower, 66. And then we have gross, how much the movie made in millions of dollars. So the average is 61.66 million. The median, though, is 10.73 million. So we have quite a few very low grossing movies on here, which we know there's a lot of zeros in there. And I think it's just inaccuracies or inconsistencies in the data set. I think a lot of the movies did not actually gross $0, but that's just what's in the CSV file. So you can see that this is already pretty useful, right? If you had real information you cared about for your company, if you run a shop, your sales data, whatever it is, I certainly have played around with this on my Udemy course, Sales Information, to understand trends. Plus, what we'll see next using data visualization kind of takes it to the next level. So that's enough for this video. I'll be back in the next where we continue with this data set and continue with this chat session, but we'll do some data visualization. So again, you can get pretty far without knowing what's happening behind the scenes, without understanding the code. I was able to ask pretty simple questions, like, can you calculate these basic stats? Which movie has this runtime? Which directors directed the most films on this list? I can look at the code, and if you are a developer, you can understand it, tweak it, and use it on your own machine, but you don't have to. It's doing the heavy lifting for us.